Now, sometimes in life we can find ourselves happily coasting through, knowing exactly what we're doing and where we're going. And then other times we can find ourselves all of a sudden up against a brick wall or a dead end or a crossroads, and we just don't know where we're going. We feel stuck, we feel confused, and we find ourselves questioning what on earth it is that we're doing and what on earth it is that we're actually here to do. Now, one of the things I really want to point out as part of this webinar, if you take one thing away, it really is this, is that today is not the last day of the rest of your life. And it's funny how we often tend to assess our life and how successful we are based on where we're at today. And actually that's a really unfair way of assessing ourselves and puts very undue pressure on who we are and where we're going. Because actually life is not about getting from A to B. And we shouldn't be putting pressure on ourselves for being somewhere or not being somewhere. Because actually the whole point of life is simply about being. It's all just a journey. And we are in control of how we live and experience that journey, because it doesn't actually end until the lights really do go out. We find ourselves questioning our ability to achieve certain things. We ask ourselves why we don't have X and why we haven't achieved Y. But the funniest thing is that more often than not, we actually haven't defined what X and Y actually are. And I hope in this webinar we can start to think about what that might be for you. Now, interestingly, if you drive a car, would you be driving it constantly and only staring at the sat-nav? No. If you were going on a hike over mountainous terrain, would you only be reading the map? Obviously not. Now, when it comes to planning our life, more often than not, we think we have to see the whole entire map. We feel like we have to know exactly what roads we're going to turn down, when we're going to turn down them. We feel like we have to see the end destination and all of the signposts along the way. But actually, that's really not the reality of it. In fact, to find our purpose and find our niche, we need to understand that it's a constant evolutionary process. We have to understand that every single step of our journey is part of building where the next part will go. That in fact there isn't a future turning until we've got through the next part. That every single place we are at now is a progression from where it is that we've actually been. So all we need to do is set the compass, point it roughly in the right direction. And by that I mean the direction that simply feels right now. And then slowly start taking steps towards that direction and constantly and regularly look up, assess where we're at and decide whether or not we need to change our course accordingly. Just like we would when driving a car, just like we would when going on a hike. We'd be taking in the weather, we'd be taking in other people and obstacles around us. We'd be looking at the speed that other people around us are travelling at, and we'd change our course accordingly. So that's all we need to do when it comes to uncovering our purpose, is take small steps, gather information, and reassess what the next step or the slight adjustment to our course actually needs to be.